Thanks for tuning in to Bourbon Drop. I'm your host, Myron. Today, we've got a special program for you guys today. So I'm going to be making my own blend. No matter what this looks like, get your mind out of the gutter. It belongs in the kitchen and not the bedroom. This is something that we keep on the counter. My wife, she likes to mix things up with. But I thought it would be perfect to use in the glass to do these blends. So I'm going to talk about how I came about this blend in a second. So yesterday, Akshay, shout out to Akshay, he invited me to a bourbon meetup. There were a ton of great bottles. I'm going to put those pictures on the screen. So, you know, I always meet a lot of great people at the bourbon meetups. Just like Dennis's meetup, he couldn't make it there yesterday, but there were a lot of the same people that were at his meetup. You had Chris and Taylor from Bourbon Retriever, they were there. Then you had Virginia, of course. You had Doug and his wife Sarah. One guy who goes by the handle Candy in the Discord, he was there. I mean, I met a lot of great people, and there were some bottles there that just were not great. There were a lot of great bottles there, but there were two that stood out, man, that were just, they were bad. They were bad. So I was like, you know, in having a conversation with Virginia, I mean, it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. So we are going to get into the blending, but I've got to go over this Abraham Bourbon bottle. It is 100 proof. I can't remember what it retails for. It is finished for 12 years in French oak, and I had higher expectations, man. Like these, we're talking about like lottery bottles. I had higher expectations, and I think for the most part, everyone that sampled it there, because Candy won two. His mom won one and he won one. So the Virginia ABC lottery, man, it's kind of weird. But anyway, so when he cracked it open, you know, we all got together. We all, you know, had a celebration and a cheers, and then we poured it, and it was kind of like, I don't want to say it was a letdown because it's good, but it was not mind-blowing. Like, there was nothing about this bottle that was like, okay, it needs to be on secondary for 200, 300, 400, 500, maybe even 1,000. It just was, it was Buffalo Trace, probably Mash Bill 1, and finished in French oak, so it kind of had like a little bit of like that Maker's 46, which I'm a big fan of Maker's 46. So just think about the fruitiest Buffalo Trace product that you've ever had with a little bit of Maker's 46, you know, just blended into it. I'm not saying it was bad because I liked it. I would love to sit down and really just enjoy it by itself, because that's the problem with bourbon meetups sometimes. So you can bring excellent bottles or bottles that you think are excellent on their own. Shout out to Doug for calling my Hemingway rye flat. But I think the Hemingway suffered from being around just better bottles. And sometimes that happens at a bourbon meetup. You will have something that is just good, and then you try something else, and it is just not as good. And you're like, wow, you know, you start thinking, well, maybe that bottle's not as good, but on its own, it might be special. So like I was telling Doug, I get so many grapes and dates and raisins and dark chocolate. And he told me maybe that was the reason why he thought it was flat, because he said that chocolate kind of is a drying note to him. So he thought it was kind of drying and flat. Now, I did bring the Middle West Pumpernickel Rye. It was just the regular one. It wasn't the cask strength one. They did have that one there. I did not get a chance to sample it. There were just so many great bottles. But I was talking to Virginia, and Doug had brought a Hooten Young 16-year light whiskey. You guys know how I feel about my Rye 3. Now, this is the 69.6. This is not the 68.6. This is the 69.6 one, which is just behind that one. So that Hooten Young 16-year light whiskey reminded me a lot of this Rye 3. So when Virginia and I were talking, you know, we both came to the same conclusion that it is just missing something. Like that Hooten Young, it's good, but it's like on the verge of being great. It had a lot of that cherry note that I love. It had a little bit of, like, I call it that fingernail polish remover note. And I do kind of like that now. I don't know what it is. I still don't like it in that 1979 Old Force that I got. It's too powerful. But like, I get that in a lot of Dusties, right? So anyway, I started thinking like, wow, what is this missing that I could mix it with? And like a light bulb went off. Like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. So when I came home, I didn't do it when I came home, but I was thinking about it on the way home. And today I was like, you know what? I am going to mix it with some things that I think is missing. Now, when you have bottles that you don't really care for, or bottles that you think are missing something, add something to it that it's missing. And I mean, I know it sounds simple, but like, why have I not done this before in the past? So I do not care for the Elijah Craig Toasted. I've had this bottle for quite a while now, and that's as far down as it's gotten. It is very just over oaked. It doesn't offer really any extra flavors to me. This bottle I actually like. This is a BK Miller pick. This is 115 proof Knob Creek single barrel rye, and it is just, it's great. Now this rye 3, like I said, it's just behind the other rye 3 that I have, but it's missing something. So it is very cherry heavy. It is very caramel forward, honey forward, does have a little bit of a bite, but I think it's missing that savory oakiness. So I was like, you know what? Why not mix that with the Elijah Craig Toasted? And then that will give the Elijah Craig Toasted some of those cherry notes and fruitier notes that I like. And then why not throw in, just for the sake of it, you know, a barely legal rye that I think is really good to add some of like that savory lemon note that I like to get in some of the bourbons that I like. So I said, well, you know what? Let's bring them together. Let's put them together. And I am about to give you guys a blend on camera that I put together earlier today, and I thought it was great. Now, first of all, you do want to start out with a good base. So the Rye 3 is an excellent base, and it's 16 years old, so you do get that oakiness with it. I love the cherry note that it does have in there. I did not add a ton of the Elijah Craig Toasted because, like I said, I think this is just over oaked. So I didn't want this thing to be too oaky because the 16-year-old does have some oaky notes, but it's not a lot. So there we go. Now look, you can break down the proofs with the percentage that you put in the glass, but I don't necessarily have a percentage because I'm just kind of going with what I did earlier today. So then you've got the rye. Now I did add about half of what I added for the Rye 3, and let's see, we'll get that to there. And then, like I said, it was just a little bit of the Elijah Craig, just to, like I said, bring that oakiness, bring that savoriness. Now, like I said, get your mind out of the gutter. This is a mixer. That thing is powerful. Earlier today, I didn't mix it up like that. I didn't know I was going to do that on camera. But anyway, the wife was probably going to kill me when she finds out what I'm using this thing for. But it was incredible, man. And I was like, you know what? If I can recreate this, I might get this out to a couple of people and see what they think about it. Let's get into the nose. So right off the bat, they haven't had a lot of time to sit with each other. Of course, it's only been a couple seconds, but I am getting that cherry. I am getting that oakiness from the Elijah Craig. I am getting that fingernail polish remover from the Rye 3. A slight bit of that citrus note from the Knob Creek Rye. A little, almost like earlier today when I did it, it's not as prominent as it is now. Maybe the mixture's off, but earlier today it was more of like a doughy Krispy Kreme glazed donut. This it's in there slightly, but it's not as much as it was earlier today. All right, let's get back into the palette because I want to see if I can recreate it on camera. Wow. That cherry note. That cherry note is not going anywhere. This Rye 3, the cherry note is just ridiculous. It was in, I think that is a trait of light whiskeys because it was in the Hooten Young that I had yesterday. This is drinking a little hot, so I'm gonna play around with it a little bit more. Let me add a little bit more of the Elijah Craig. That might bring the proof down just a little bit. All right, I don't know if I want to turn this thing on again. We'll spin it around this time. Let me just hit it one time. There we go. That was enough. All right. So let's go back into the nose. This might be it. I'm starting to get that like doughy note, that sweet glaze, like Krispy Kreme donut. I might have went too heavy on the Knob Creek Rye. Wow. I might be a master blender. I don't know, man. This, oh my God. If you have these 3 bottles at home, just play around with it. Put in the comments what bottles you blended together and just made one hell of a blend with this thing right here. Like I said, talking to Virginia yesterday, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, what can I put in these bottles that are missing and use other bottles to fill those in? And these 3 make one hell of a combination. Let me go back into the palette one more time. It is sweet, rich, drying. That cherry note just sits there. It's not heavy butterscotchy. It's more along the lines of caramel, like a super caramel sweet. I say this sometimes like that table sugar sweetness, but more along the lines of caramel. And see, that's, you know, I don't want people to get it confused. So when I say like caramel and butterscotch, to me, butterscotch is like savory and salty. Caramel is more along the lines of being almost there, but just super sweet. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, that doughy note is coming out on the nose even more, like oh my gosh, like a Krispy Kreme glazed donut. Now, right in the beginning, so on the front of the tongue, it was savory for like a hot second. Then it rolls into the super sweet cherry. Then you get that caramel, that table sugar. And believe it or not, it has a great finish, but it's like it's a light, very light char and more leather along the very back. Like not mid to back, but like along the very back. The finish just hangs on. It is a little drying, but I can deal with that. Look, I've had a lot of fun. Shout out to everybody at Akshay's Bourbon Meetup yesterday. We had a great time. Put in the comments the bottles that you play around with, the bottles that you like to mix up, some of the good bottles that you had. Oh, you know what? No, let's not stop the video here. So let's go into the bad bottles. So this is not the bottle, but this is a representation of the bottle. The Mackenzie. So the Mackenzie bottle that they had there yesterday was, I think it was like around 107, 101 or 105 or 107. This one is 109.6. This is 7 years old. I think that one may have been 7 years old too. So Sarah and I were talking, and that thing had a note of whiteout. I've never had that before. It was like bad, bad. And maybe on its own, it's great. But Virginia was the one who pointed it out to me, because shout out to Virginia too, because she had a bottle of J.W. Kelly. I told her that bottle was a tainted bottle. Something was wrong with that bottle because this was nothing but maple syrup. The bottle she had, and Sarah, Doug's wife, she pointed it out. She was like, this has notes of barbecue potato chips, like a bag of barbecue potato chips. And when I smelt the glass, she was 100% correct. She's got one heck of a nose. She's got one heck of a palate as well. I told her, I said, that is nothing like the bottle I have at home. So Virginia was interested in getting a sample. I told her, I think I have some possibly, but that bottle might be empty, as you can see. But I told her I do know where that store was that I got it from, and they had a whole bunch on the shelf, so I should be able to get the same exact bottle. So this is from cask 120. This is bottle 21 of 214, and it was bottled 12/1/2021. But I'm gonna be straight up with you. The bottle of Mackenzie that we were all sampling was just bad. If you've ever been a kid and had like some white tennis shoes, and you remember, if you're from my era and you remember that white tennis shoe dye that you had to kind of like squeeze out and rub it on a tennis shoe at the same time, it smelled like that and white out at the same time. It was bad. It was really bad. And shout out to Candy too, man, because he was the one who broke out the Abraham Bowman. He had one for trade, and he had one that, you know, he was going to break out for everybody to taste. I was surprised. Everybody was like, is he doing it? Is he really doing it? But yeah, he really did it. and he was the one who was mixing the J.W. Kelly with the RD1 Amberana. He was like, put just a teeny bit of the J.W. Kelly, well, put a teeny bit of the Amberana, the RD1, with the J.W. Kelly. I still couldn't get with that blend. I didn't think it was that great, and we talked about it, but like I said, I had a great time. Shout out to everybody who was there, who had a great time. They showed Bourbon Drop love, but I really appreciate you guys. And with that being said, let the whiskey flow. Never run out unless you head it to a drop. Till next time.